Hi everyone, my name is Marisol Yvonne. I'm 27 years old. Today's story is titled, My Parents Demanded I Sell My $2.8 million supercar collection to buy my unemployed brother a house. So I moved my supercar collection to a secret location in the middle of the night. Today she texted me from her first. Sell them all. He needs a house, not your flashy toys. My mother's voice snapped across the room, sharp as glass. My father didn't even glance at me, just nodded in agreement as though the verdict had already been signed. I froze. My collection wasn't a pile of toys. Those 19 supercars were the result of every battle I had fought, sleepless nights, cutthroat deals, and the sacrifices no one ever saw. Each car wasn't metal, it was memory. The midnight McLaren I bought after my first acquisition. The scarlet Ferrari that marked my first million. The Lamborghini Huracan that roared louder than every doubt ever thrown at me. But in their eyes, disposable. A price tag waiting to be converted into my brother's comfort. Marcus sat on the couch, slouched like a king without a crown. His smirk said he didn't even need to argue. Our parents were his shield. He had no career, no discipline, but every entitlement. You're his sister, my mother pressed on, voice dripping with false sanctity. If you don't help him, who will? A roof is worth more than shiny engines. Her words slithered into me, but what I heard was different. You exist to erase yourself for him. The house seemed colder than ever. Every smiling photo on the wall, family vacations, birthdays, holidays, looked staged now, props in a play of favoritism I had been blind to. The silence felt suffocating. I looked at Marcus again, his thumb lazily flicking across his phone, not even acknowledging the storm his comfort demanded from me. That was the moment I knew, this wasn't a request. It was an ultimatum. My chest tightened, but my resolve hardened with it. They believed they had cornered me. They thought I'd fold quietly, dismantling years of work to shelter someone who had never built anything. What they didn't know was that I had already moved faster than they could imagine. The night carried a silence so deep it felt alive. My driveway, once glowing with the reflections of 19 machines, stood cloaked in shadows. One by one I had already begun moving them, whispering engines through the sleeping city, each departure a secret vow of defiance. It wasn't easy. Every roar risked discovery. Every turn of the key reminded me of the betrayal simmering at home. But my hands didn't tremble. My vision was sharp, my plan exact. I wasn't just relocating cars, I was securing my freedom, piece by piece. By 3 a.m., sweat trickled down my spine as I guided the final car into the warehouse I had leased months ago under a false name. A cavernous space, silent except for the soft echo of tires meeting polished concrete. I stood there, surrounded by everything they wanted me to surrender, and felt the first spark of control return. I ran my fingers over the hood of my Ferrari, the cool metal grounding me. They'll never touch you, I whispered as though the car itself could hear. Back at home the lie still stood. My parents thought my collection slept in the garage, ripe for sacrifice. Marcus believed he'd already won, that his future mansion was as good as built. But truth was now a weapon, sharp and hidden, waiting for its moment. The next morning the performance began. Over breakfast my mother's voice was syrupy sweet, a counterfeit kindness masking the demand. We'll start calling realtors today, she said, stirring her coffee. Marcus needs something central, 3 bedrooms at least. My father folded his newspaper, nodding as if it were gospel. Marcus didn't even look up from his phone. His smirk was enough. I spooned cereal slowly, the taste like ash, and said nothing. Silence was my shield. They mistook it for surrender, and that was the beauty of it. When I excused myself and stepped outside, the garage door yawned open behind me, an empty cathedral. The hollowness echoed, louder than any words I could have spoken. That was the moment I realized. They hadn't just underestimated me. They had erased me in their minds, reducing me to a wallet, a vessel of sacrifice. And soon they'd discover the truth. What happens when the vessel refuses to break? 2 days passed before the first crack appeared. Why isn't the garage open? My father asked one morning, his tone sharp, suspicious. He had gone outside expecting to admire the cars, maybe to begin calculating how quickly they could be turned into cash. Instead he found only silence and bare concrete. I met his gaze evenly. Because some things are mine, I said softly. The words hung in the air, foreign in a house where my voice had rarely held weight. By noon the storm broke. My mother burst into my room, eyes blazing. "Where are the cars, Maricela?" Her voice was a whip, desperate and enraged. "Do you think you can defy us? Do you realize what your brother needs?" Marcus appeared behind her, smirk gone, replaced with unease. He had finally realized that his promised palace was no longer guaranteed. I stood by the window watching the sunlight stretch across the city and felt strangely calm. "They're safe," I said. "And that's all you need to know." Her hands trembled. "Safe? They were supposed to give Marcus stability. Don't you understand? Family comes first." A laugh, quiet and bitter, escaped me. "Family comes first, until it's me. Then it's sacrifice. Always sacrifice." The room thickened with silence. My father's footsteps approached, each one heavy, deliberate. He entered, his face carved with disappointment. "You've always been selfish, Maricela. Cars over people. Pride over family. You think this makes you strong? It makes you alone." For a heartbeat his words cut deep. Alone, that was the shadow I had fought all my life to escape. But now, standing in the ruins of their expectations, I realized being alone with my truth was better than being together in their lies. I met his gaze, unblinking. "Maybe alone is safer than being used." The room froze. My mother's lips parted, but no words came. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, the weight of entitlement finally pressing on him. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't plead. I just stood in that silence, letting it bloom, letting them feel the edges of the wall they had built around me now cracking in their hands. And deep inside I knew, this was only the beginning. The house felt colder after that confrontation, like every wall had absorbed their anger and now pulsed it back toward me. Meals became silent battles. My mother clinked her fork against her plate like a warning. My father read the paper but never turned a page. Marcus sulked, restless, his entitlement cracking into frustration. But silence was my ally. He gave me space to watch, to plan. That evening, as twilight bled into night, Marcus cornered me in the hallway. His voice was low, urgent. "You think this makes you clever? Mom and Dad will force you to sell. You'll give me what I deserve, one way or another." I studied his face, the arrogance now tinged with fear. "Deserve?" I whispered, stepping closer. "You've earned nothing. You just wait for others to build and then call it your right. But rights aren't handed out, Marcus. They're forged." His jaw clenched. For once he had no reply. That night, lying awake, I scrolled through my phone. My warehouse security feed glowed back at me. 19 supercars resting quietly in rows, gleaming under stark white lights. They looked like soldiers waiting for command. I smiled. They weren't just cars anymore, they were leverage. The next morning my parents tried a softer approach. My mother's voice was honeyed, almost pleading. "Maricela, sweetheart, you don't have to sell all of them. Just enough to buy your brother a modest place. Think of the family name. Think of your father's peace." Her words twisted like vines trying to coil around my guilt. My father added quietly, "He's your brother. He'll fall apart without this chance." I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the warmth steady me. "Then let him fall apart," I said finally. My voice was calm but my heart thundered. "Because I will not." Their faces fell. The illusion shattered. They finally saw I wasn't bending, not this time. Later that day, as I drove out of the neighborhood, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from my sister-in-law, Marcus's wife. A single line. "You won't believe what he's planning next." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. A chill swept through me. Marcus wasn't done, and neither was I. I pulled into an empty parking lot and opened the message fully. My sister-in-law, Ava, had never sided with me before. In fact, she usually mirrored Marcus's arrogance. But her words now were sharp, almost frantic. "He's talking to buyers behind your back. Says he'll find where you hid them. He's bragging that Mom and Dad will make you confess. He wants the money in his name." I stared at the glowing screen, the cold night air wrapping around me. Marcus wasn't just waiting anymore, he was scheming. My pulse quickened, but not with fear. With clarity. His greed had grown bold enough to expose itself. I typed one reply, "Let him try." The next evening I came home to find the garage door wide open, light spilling out into the driveway. My father stood inside, pacing the empty space, his face thunderous. My mother clutched a stack of papers. Realtor listings circled in red. Marcus leaned against the wall, his smirk resurrected. "We know you hid them," he said coolly. "And you're going to tell us where." I stepped into the garage, letting my heels click against the floor like deliberate punctuation. "If you knew," I said softly, "you wouldn't be asking." My father slammed the papers onto the hood of his car. "This isn't a game, Maricela. Those cars belong to this family. Your brother needs them more than you ever will." The words stabbed, but I didn't flinch. I looked at Marcus instead. His eyes were hungry, desperate to win, desperate to make me crumble. "What happens," I asked him quietly, "when you discover your kingdom was built on nothing but dust?" He frowned, confusion flickering in his eyes. For the first time I saw the cracks. He wasn't invincible. He was terrified. I turned and walked out, leaving their voices tangled behind me. My phone buzzed again as I reached my car. Another text from Ava. "Meet me tomorrow. There's more you should know." I sat in the driver's seat, heart pounding. More. The thought settled like a stone in my stomach. Because if Ava was breaking her silence now, Marcus's secrets were far darker than I had imagined. And soon they would all be exposed. The next day I met Ava at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. She sat in the corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't touched, eyes darting like a woman carrying a secret too heavy to hold. When I slid into the seat across from her, she leaned forward. "Maricela, he's drowning in debt. Gambling, loans, things you don't even want to know. He's been telling people you'll cover it all once the cars are sold. That's why he's desperate." The words hit like a storm. I stared at her, searching for the lie, but found only exhaustion in her eyes. "Why tell me now?" I asked softly. Her lips trembled. "Because if he drags you down, I go down too. I can't live in his fantasy anymore. I thought you should know what you're really fighting against." Silence settled between us. The cafe's hum faded, replaced by the pounding of my heart. Marcus's entitlement wasn't just greed. It was rot, spreading deeper than any of us had seen. I left with more than information. I left with proof. Ava forwarded screenshots, messages Marcus had sent to buyers, boasting about cars he didn't own, deals he couldn't deliver. Lies stacked on lies. That night I sat in my office with the glow of the laptop lighting my face. The files lined up neatly, every text, every thread, every screenshot. Evidence. For years I had played the role of dutiful daughter, silent sister, bending to their narrative. But now, I had a story of my own to tell. At dinner the tension was thick enough to choke on. My father finally broke the silence. "Enough. Tomorrow we sit down, all of us. You'll tell us where the cars are and this will be finished." Marcus smirked again as if the verdict was already written. I placed my phone on the table, its screen still glowing with one of his incriminating messages. His own words stared back at him like a mirror he couldn't shatter. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. His smirk faltered, eyes flicking to the screen, then to me. For the first time Marcus realized, the battle wasn't about cars anymore. It was about truth. The family meeting wasn't in a boardroom, but it felt like one. My parents sat at the dining table, shoulders squared, faces carved from stone. Marcus lounged in his chair, trying to look calm, but his leg jittered under the table, betraying his nerves. I walked in carrying nothing but my phone. No documents, no folder, no theatrics, just the truth resting in my hand. My father started. "Maricela, this has gone on long enough. Your brother's future is at stake. Tell us where the cars are and we'll forget this childish rebellion." Childish. The word dug into me like a thorn. But instead of bleeding, I smiled. Slowly I placed my phone on the table and pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room, his recorded words spilling out. "She'll sell them, she has to. Those cars are mine anyway. Once I clear my debts, I'll flip the rest. Easy money." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face drained of color. My father's jaw clenched so tightly I thought it might crack. Marcus shot to his feet, rage boiling in his eyes. "You set me up." I met his fury with calm. "No, Marcus. You set yourself up. You thought you could gamble with my life's work, lie to everyone and still come out clean. But lies leave stains. And now everyone can see them." My mother shook her head in disbelief, whispering his name like a prayer that wouldn't be answered. My father, always so quick to defend him, couldn't meet my eyes. I leaned forward, my voice steady. "The cars are safe. They'll stay safe. Not 1 cent of them will pay for his debts, his house, or his fantasies. This is the line, and it won't be crossed. Marcus's fists clenched. You'll regret this. I rose from my chair, lifting my phone again. No, Marcus. You will. Because tomorrow these recordings and screenshots won't just live on my phone. They'll live in every inbox that matters. Creditors, business partners, even the police if I decide. Your empire of lies collapses at the touch of a button. The weight of my words settled like thunder in the room. For the first time, Marcus had nothing left to say. The next morning the house felt hollow. My parents avoided me, their footsteps ghosting through the halls without words. Marcus stayed locked in his room, blinds drawn, the arrogance drained from him overnight. I sat in the kitchen, coffee in hand, watching sunlight creep across the floor. My phone buzzed. Ava again. They're already talking. His buyers know he can't deliver. The lies are spreading fast. It had begun. By noon, Marcus stumbled into the living room, pale and frantic. You ruined me, he hissed. His voice wasn't sharp anymore. It was cracked, broken. He waved his phone like proof. They're all backing out. Everyone knows I don't own the cars. My debts, they'll... His words dissolved into silence. I stood calm, collected. You ruined yourself, Marcus. I just turned on the light. My father finally spoke, voice low, defeated. Maricela, why didn't you tell us sooner? I turned to him, my chest tight but steady. Because you never listened. You saw my success as a reservoir to drain. Not once did you see me. The truth settled heavy in the air. My mother's eyes glistened, but she said nothing. Perhaps for the first time, they realized the cost of always choosing him over me. That evening I drove to the warehouse. The moment the doors opened, light poured over rows of gleaming machines, their reflections wrapping around me like a shield. They weren't just cars. They were a legacy no one could strip away. I walked between them slowly, running my hand along their polished frames, and breathed freely for the first time in weeks. Each one was a reminder. I had built my own future. I had defended it. As I reached the Lamborghini, my phone buzzed again. A single text from Marcus. I lost everything. Don't ever speak to me again. I stared at it for a moment, then slipped the phone back into my pocket. No reply. Some endings don't need words. I climbed into the driver's seat, engine roaring to life beneath me, a symphony of freedom. The city stretched ahead, open, endless. And as I drove into the night, I knew one thing for certain. I hadn't just protected my cars. I had reclaimed myself.